Welcome to Thriving in Perimenopause and Beyond. My name is Tennille Hooglin. I'm so thrilled to be here. I am an expert coach on integrating health and nutrition science with sport, endurance, and looking at how do we as female athletes in midlife thrive through it all, through all the stress, through all the wonders that we get to take on in life, and just generally how do we understand all these hormone changes as we are approaching in or beyond the menopause transition. So we are talking about hydration today, and I'm going to it's such an interesting thing for people because we can actually get quite impassioned about water, and we can get quite impassioned about how much. And it was fascinating. I was in a conversation with somebody, and she was saying that she's drinking a gallon of water every single day, and a gallon of water every single day just seems like an incredible feat. And it made me start to think about them, just like it actually caused a bit of alarm for me, because I was like, ooh, what happens when we drink too much? What happens? We talk about so much of not getting enough, and we talk about so much of being dehydrated, that what is that optimal amount? And I'm not going to talk about that today specifically. We definitely dive into that within our team element, and we look at different research and different theories and different ideas around it, because it's actually not quite as clear cut as some would make it out to be. And that's because there's always going to be another side to the story. And that's what I just want to illuminate a little bit today. So say hello and share what you love. And what are you drinking anything right now? I am so into the holy basil tea. I'll tell you the things that I'm loving right now. I just can't get enough of my holy basil tea. And I actually, I have a huge carafe that I fill up in the morning. So my hydration habits I have my peppermint. I always leave, okay, this is funny. I leave a tiny bit of peppermint tea. I always have a peppermint tea after dinner, and or just before I'm going to bed. I just love it. It's soothing, and just for me, it's just what I need. And so I leave a little bit of my peppermint tea in my big mug. And then the next morning, I take that little bit of peppermint tea, and I fill it up with warm water. And that's what I take all my morning supplements with. And so I have this big mug of water first thing. Then I get to have my decaffeinated coffee, which I have. If anybody has listened to me, I am echoing the Dr. Andrew Huberman thing about wait to have your caffeine at least 90 minutes after you wake up. If you don't want to have that 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m., depending on when you're waking up, total crash. So that's something I wanted to share. So then I have my cup of coffee or my decaf coffee, and then I do my strength training or whatever it is that I'm doing in the morning. And then I come back and I sit down, and that's when I have my huge carafe of holy basil tea. And that is a Tulsi tea, and it's an Ayurvedic principles of wellness within that tea. And then I have my caffeine, my espresso. And so that's how I start my day. And that actually takes me quite through into the next part of my day, which I might start having just another water, or sometimes I know it's not the best thing, but I have my soda water. Right. If I'm trying to not have a glass of wine, then I like to go and have another treat. And to me, that is we call it bubbly here. So that takes me almost through. So those are my habits. And what I think it brings us is, how is it that we're feeling? Like, I have some of these habits because they just feel so good. I love my peppermint tea. I love my peppermint tea in the morning. I love my holy basil. It just makes me feel good, and it's warming, and it's energy. And so much of the hydration that we have is because it helps us think more clearly. It's because it makes our body run more smoothly and it makes our skin feel good. So part of understanding hydration is understanding the motivation for it and actually coming into an awareness of how does it make me feel if I'm well hydrated? And maybe that is how we can move toward something, is really coming in, dialing into that sensation of it. Within nutrition, what I want to just point out, there was a poll in the Facebook group, and it was saying we were looking at a whole bunch of different foods, cucumbers, watermelon, celery, lettuce, and it was like, okay, so what do you think has the most hydration or hydrating properties? And watermelon rose to the top, rose to the top of all of them. And I'm afraid that it is cucumbers that are topping everything at a whopping 96% hydrating of water content. And then we have celery at 95%, lettuce, like a romaine lettuce or a butter lettuce, are also at 95%. Mushrooms and watermelon are the same at 92%. So we can remember that watermelon is also very fibrous, and it's very high in water. Obviously, we're talking about all things that are wonderfully hydrating. I mean, your 92% water is in a watermelon, but it was just interesting to see. What I want to point out, though, is when we think about hydration, it's not only our fluids that are hydrating, that we can think beyond that and think, okay, well, how else can I understand how I'm nourishing my body? We like to talk in within T-Mail Element about nourishing. What is nourishment? And so again, it's like, oh, that watermelon, I'm getting a whack of fiber. I'm getting a beautiful, that nice crunch. I'm satiating with hummus. I'm adding more vitamins and minerals into my body by eating these things that are also happen to be hydrating. So it can be beautiful. What I also wanted to say within the nutritional lens is keep the big picture in mind when we're thinking about hydration, and we're thinking about it from an electrolytes, or do we need to have salt in how much salt in our diet, how much electrolytes in our water bottles? Is it a pinch of salt? Do we have those salt tablets? And this is, again, things that we really talk to within Team Element when we're having our office hours, because to be honest, that another poll that we had this week within the Facebook group was speaking to, do you use them? Dr. Stacy Sims has made it clear that this is not a good strategy for females, but in circumstances, maybe it is in certain circumstances. And so how is it that we come to know our body, come to understand what we need, and we can see the guidelines, but how is it that we can support from a holistic view, understanding this is how we normally eat. If we're eating whole foods that is not processed, you're not going to have a lot of salt in your diet unless you add it. So understanding these differences and understanding all these nuances to the big picture of what we actually need to hydrate and to maintain that beautiful osmolality within our body. And there's so many other things that we can do within that. Within our training, again, we can, like, if you want to find controversy, we can find controversy. Is it less than 2%? Is it, is if you lose 2% of your body weight, this is known to be having performance decrements. And in some cases, people that have more than 2% actually have won marathons and have done, great things. And this is all coming from the Endure book of Alex Hutchinson, if you're interested in reading more about that. And so where is that actual interest, and what is it about our thirst? What is it about our hydration status that we really get into? Some interesting research there. And finally, in the recovery, and again, how is it that we replenish our fluids? If we've just had a really like a good sweat fest on the trainer, or we've had, it's a really hot day or whatever. How is it that we're bringing in those nutrients and that hydration back into our body, and what is the most optimal way? And interestingly enough, there are different things that we can think about, like, there's a lot more research being done on alkaline water, and I'm not going to get into that nest of controversy as well. But there are some ways that our bodies are able to bring in or absorb the water a little bit better. Our pH doesn't change. Our body tightly regulates the pH of every cell. That actually differs between cells, but it's very tightly regulated. That's not going to shift whether we have alkaline water or not, but we are able to absorb water and feel differently within our cells with different pHs. And so the point that I'm making here is, how is it, whether it be a smoothie or something else, how is it that you're bringing in that nourishment again, so that we can have and be thriving and loving it? The last thing I want to say is, look at the color of your pee and notice things. This is like, notice how the color of your urine is changing with your hydration status, and notice how you're feeling as it changes. These is building up onto awareness, and ask and be curious about how your body is working to support your whole way of movement of flow in the fluids that you have. And it tells us a lot. It tells us a whole lot. So I hope this is helpful with just like hydration 101, just a quick fix. I hope you all have a fantastic and beautifully hydrating day. Try holy basil tea if you haven't. Add a little bit of honey, because it's just scrumptious. It's just delicious, especially on a cooler, rainy day or a windy day. I know in England it was windy, and in Vancouver it is pouring rain, and who knows wherever else you are. I hope that you are staying hydrated, staying warm, and staying happy and thriving. Have a fantastic day, everybody. Bye-bye.